Last year, Hyundai proved that the performance EV formula works. In something that looks like a crossover, the IONIQ 5N is genuinely quick, very capable, and absolutely a blast to drive, but it's a little on the tall side. This is the same formula in a sedan, same powertrain, lower center of gravity, and systems optimized to take advantage. And on the racetrack, the difference is massive. What's it like? Buckle up, my friends. Let's go for a drive.
I'm your host, Brian Makse, racer, lover of driving fast, fun things. And on this channel, you get reviews for drivers from drivers. Now, to be quite honest, Hyundai flew me to their home country to try this IONIQ 6N at the premier track in the country, which says a lot about their confidence in this vehicle. And don't think for a second that this IONIQ 6N is a sedan version of the IONIQ 5N. No, it's a completely different set of considerations, and an incredible amount of engineering has gone into this from the ground up all the way through to the aero. And before we get into what this is like to drive, let's have a look at it in a little more depth.
There are a lot of obvious changes that turn this from an IONIQ 6 into this 6N, and a lot of that starts underneath the bodywork. It starts with a more rigid chassis through additional welds, adhesives, and underbody reinforcements, among others. Top line numbers, the motors make 650 horsepower on N-Grin boost, 601 otherwise, 568 pounds of torque. There's an 84 kilowatt hour battery on board, 350 kilowatt max fast charging. Range is estimated to be 302 miles or 487 kilometers. It is all-wheel drive with N torque distribution with 11 adjustable levels, and it is, of course, variable front to rear. Steering is electrically assisted, but there's more caster than IONIQ 5N. Suspension architecture is completely redesigned for this platform. It starts with McPherson struts at the front with redesigned geometry and a lowered roll center, multi-link at the rear with optimized pickup points, and stroke sensing electronically controlled dampers with real-time position management. No, it doesn't use an accelerometer. Four-wheel disc brakes, of course, 4-piston calipers at the front with 400mm rotors, single piston at the rear with 360mm rotors. Regenerative braking's been retuned to provide up to 0.6 Gs of a deceleration and 0.35 Gs while ABS is active. Wheels and tires are 20s, and get this, these Pirellis are developed specifically for this car, and if Pirelli's developing a bespoke tire for you, you're probably doing things right or spending a lot of money. Probably both. At the rear, there's a swan neck spoiler. It's balanced between low drag and high-speed downforce, which is a difficult engineering compromise. The regular wing that you see on this car contributes 100 kilograms or 220 pounds at 150 miles an hour. The big wing from the N Performance Parts catalog is adjustable and contributes a maximum of 305 kilograms or about 670 pounds of downforce at 150 miles an hour. The N is 60 millimeters wider than a regular IONIQ 6, and curb weight is a little TBD at this point in time, but it's probably about 4,800 pounds. We have to talk about the integrated NE shift, which is the simulated gear shifts that now work across drive modes. It's functional power delivery modulation, not just audio theater. There's a new N ambient shift light, N pedal that offers 3 levels of tuck-in on throttle lift, N drift optimizer that offers independent control of drift initiation, angle, and wheel spin. Of course, they've optimized thermal management for sustained track performance. And for drivers like us, there's N Track Manager that allows you to create a custom track. There's ghost car visualization and detailed lap time analysis. And fun fact, the N stands for Namyang, Hyundai's R&D center, and Nürburgring, where they test. It's the most efficient use of a single letter since Prince.
Did you know that 80% of you are not subscribed? Yes, it's true. 80% of you are not subscribed. I checked the data. So if you like the content on this channel, do me a solid, hit that subscribe button, make sure you like this. And if you want to support the channel, please hit up our merch store. Links here, links below. Lots of great stuff for driving enthusiasts like us, including our very popular line of Save the Manuals merch. Now back to your regularly scheduled episode. Behind the wheel, this is an IONIQ 6 with all of the necessary N touches to make this a proper performance car, starting with the driver interface. The seat is fantastic, as is the steering wheel. And those of you who might be new to the N vehicles, these steering wheels can be a little bit complex, but once you get accustomed to them, they make a lot of sense. And since I've driven a fair number of N cars lately, I'm very comfortable here with the setup, and the ergonomics make a lot of sense. The fundamental ergonomics are very straightforward, as you'd expect for Hyundai, but the N touches, especially these seats, are absolutely fantastic. Now, the one consideration I have is I'd like to get this seat a little bit lower to the floor, but given that the battery pack is in the floor, I can understand why this seat is maybe a little higher than I would like it, but otherwise that's really my only complaint about the interface. Once I'm here, I'm very comfortable, and as we'll see on the track soon, I think we're going to be quite comfortable behind the wheel. While we're sitting here, let's talk about the stuff that nobody really talks about, but matters every single day you're behind the wheel, starting with the steering wheel. Sure, we've got lots of buttons and things going on, but the fundamentals are correct. It's the right diameter, the right shape, the right size. It encourages you to have your hands in 9 and 3, and this instrument cluster is something we need to have a conversation about because there's a lot going on.
It can display lap times, telemetry, G-forces, a ghost car, tire pressures, and probably your cholesterol levels. That's a lot of information competing for your attention, but here's what Hyundai did right. Hierarchy. The critical information, speed, and simulated gear is always dominant. Everything else is contextual and accessible without being intrusive. You're not hunting through menus to find data. It's there when you need it, gone when you don't. Compare that to some German systems where finding your current gear requires a PhD in user interface design.
Technology should enhance the driving experience, not distract from it. And I think overall, that's the theme with this 6N. There's so much technology. No, it's not distracting, and you can take advantage of all of it. 0 to 60 with launch control happens in, maybe 3.2 seconds. Without it, you're probably looking at a few ticks slower, but still well under 4 seconds.
Throttle response is instant, not fast, instant. The gap between your foot moving and the car reacting is measured in milliseconds. Your brain is the limiting factor, not the powertrain. The dual motors make 650 horses combined. The front motor makes 238. Rear makes 412. Hyundai rear biased the power delivery, which is the first sign they understand how performance cars should work. What matters is how much of that power you can actually deploy when you want it, and this is where the IONIQ 6N does something smart. The torque vectoring and traction control systems aren't just stopping wheel spin, they're actively managing how power gets distributed to maximize what you can use. On corner exit, it's not just dumping power to all 4 wheels and hoping for the best. It's calculating slip angle, steering input, and throttle position, then sending power where it won't overwhelm the tires. The result is you can get on the throttle earlier and harder because the car is managing the physics. And that's what makes it feel quicker than the spec sheet.
This simulated gearbox is going to bother some people, so let's address it right here and right now.
There are no physical gears, but here's what it actually does. It modulates power delivery in stepped increments instead of linear acceleration, which gives you reference points for throttle application and creates gaps where you can rotate the car or adjust your line. On track, those reference points matter for consistency. It's also fully integrated with launch control, drift mode, and N-Grin boost now. The shifts aren't there for theater, they're functional brakes and power delivery that you can use. Is it necessary? No. Does it make the car more engaging and give you more control over power application? Yes. Judge it on function, not philosophy.
Apologies for the silly looking helmet. The amount of power that this makes really has to force me to recalibrate my brain because it's so incredibly powerful. And, getting to 100% throttle like I did there, it's so quick out of corners. You have to pay special attention to how much throttle you're applying when exiting a corner. But I have to say it's incredibly sure-footed in that regard. If I'm a little bit careful with the throttle, it allows me to be very precise with my throttle inputs. But of course, it's very tempting to go to maximum throttle, and the N-Grin boost will automatically switch on as you exit a corner and get to full throttle. So you've got that extra horsepower when you want it. And it's actually, you get that extra horsepower exactly when you need it on the track. I think the biggest challenge I'm having is recalibrating my brain to the full travel of that throttle, because it's very easy, very tempting to get to 100% throttle, maybe sooner than you can, but it doesn't really upset the balance of the car either.
Nobody talks about thermal management during performance driving, which is where EVs traditionally collapse. Hyundai's N battery system preconditions the pack to optimal temperature based on what you're doing. Drag racing needs different temps than a long on-track session. The cooling system is oversized, the battery coolant heater is more powerful than the previous generation, and the thermal management controller is constantly adjusting. What that means in practice? I can do multiple back-to-back hot laps without the battery entering protection mode and killing power. The boring stuff behind the scenes is what makes the exciting stuff possible.
I think what I need to do is stop fooling around with the gear changes. There we go. This is wild. No gear changes now. And it's a completely different experience for somebody who's been racing cars with gear transmissions my entire life. Being on the racetrack with something that effectively has a single gear is just wild. And I want to pull the shifter, but that's not happening here. This is so cool. And as the gentleman who's riding with me told me, this is actually quicker around a racetrack in this mode. I kind of prefer the gearing simply because I can be a little bit more precise. And I suspect if I had a little bit more time in this 6N on this circuit, I'd find that this non-gear change mode would be quicker around the circuit, because it's very clear those false gear changes actually reduce power output a little bit to mimic what an actual gear change does. So these simulated gear changes are fake, but they're entirely functional.
Comment whether that's acceptable engineering or automotive theater. For me, the shifts create power delivery reference points that help with throttle application and corner management on track. Does function justify the fakery, or is this a slippery slope toward completely synthetic driving experiences?
And I've clearly defended it in this review, so let me know what you think in the comments. What's even more impressive is the steering and the braking. Both are fantastic here. There's a little bit of feedback through the steering wheel, and despite the weight of this 6N, there's a decent amount of feedback through the chassis, so I can feel what it's doing, whether I'm getting a little bit of push at the front end, whether it's oversteering on corner exit. It just kind of works, and this is a completely different experience than pretty much anything I've driven on track before, because it is so sure-footed, exiting corners, turns in incredibly well. The brakes are powerful, easy to modulate. We appreciate that it's exceptionally quick out of corners, but the steering allows me to place this anywhere I want on the track with incredible precision. Plus, the brakes are fantastic. Control, feel, modulation, all very much top-notch. Really, really dig these brakes. Dampers do a fantastic job of ensuring these tires stay in contact with the track surface. What I am starting to do, of course, is use up some of the curbing, which is going to be a little bit quicker, of course. If I were chasing lap times, I'd be using much more curbing, but that's not really what I'm doing here.
Hyundai's dampers know exactly where the suspension is and travel all the time. Its actual physical position measured directly. That means they can predict what's about to happen and adjust damping force proactively instead of reactively. You feel it as better compliance over rough surfaces. It's also expensive technology that Hyundai could have skipped. They didn't, and the chassis is better for it.
Dampers do a wonderful job, especially in these low-speed corners. They're doing a great job with body and wheel control. Very nice. Steering allows me to be very, very precise. So while this car is capable of allowing you to chase your personal best lap times, and has all the tools that you can use to track your lap times, whether it's data analysis after the session, I definitely would love a stickier tire, but otherwise, I really can't complain because the rest of this car really works. Steering, brakes, the amount of grip is fantastic. and the balance is very neutral. You can tell it's all-wheel drive. It's exceptionally well balanced at every point in the corner. You know, just like this, exiting a corner, it's so sure-footed. I can just point this anywhere I want it. It responds to throttle inputs. If I come off the throttle a little bit through the corner, well, it tucks in the nose nicely, subtly. The balance doesn't get upset. It just responds to everything that I'm doing.
Here's what separates good performance cars from great ones: cohesiveness. Does the steering communicate what the chassis is doing? Do the brakes feel consistent with the suspension? Does the power delivery match the chassis capability? This is where the IONIQ 6N succeeds. The steering weight matches the handling effort. Heavier steering would feel wrong, but this is balanced. The brake feel blends regenerative and actual braking, so you're not hunting for bite point or trying to figure out modulation. The throttle response matches how quickly the chassis can react. Instant power at exactly the right time. Everything talks to everything else. That's system integration done right. Hyundai's teams clearly talk to each other. And behind the wheel, you feel it and how natural everything feels.
These brakes are progressive. I keep playing with them to see if I can overtax them, and there's no problem at all. This car is doing everything I want it to do. Great balance on limit. You can hear the tires working as we exit the corner, pick up the throttle all the way to 100%. Just brilliant.
I have to say, this car corners like it's angry at the concept of understeer. The torque vectoring rotates the car just as I want it. The rear bias power delivery keeps it pointed, and the suspension geometry refuses to let it push. It's engineering as a middle finger to physics.
Medium braking for the second to last corner. For this last corner, we're going to need a little bit of heavy braking. Turn in, hit the apex, pick up the throttle, hit the curbing on the exit, and back to full throttle. Just brilliant. Yeah, this is one of those moments where I've had just enough time around the circuit. It's all coming together now, and I know exactly what I need to do for a quick lap time. But the thing is, this car is doing exactly what I want it to do. I'm very impressed here. I'm just fooling with this car just to see what it does.
Hyundai's Drift Optimizer has 3 independently adjustable parameters. RTO controls initiation, how easily it breaks the rear loose. ESC controls angle, how much slip the stability system allows. TCS controls wheel spin, how much the tires can spin under power. You can set conservative initiation for safety, moderate angle for learning, and aggressive wheel spin for a show of tire smoke, or any combination. That granularity means novices can learn without immediate death, while experienced drivers can dial in competition-level settings. It's accessibility and capability in the same system, where most manufacturers pick one or the other. How do you spec yours? Well, it comes in 6 colors. Performance blue is the correct choice. Also, black is the correct choice. Everything else doesn't count. I don't make the rules. Pricing hasn't been announced, but given that the IONIQ 5N starts at $65,000 US or $78,000 Canadian, expect the IONIQ 6N to be priced a little bit north of that. I've spent more than that on bad financial decisions. The difference is this comes with 650 horsepower and won't text you at 2 a.m. asking if you're awake. My verdict, well, the IONIQ 5N proved that the systems work, but the 6N proves that Hyundai could build a platform around those systems. Yes, the simulated gear shifting is a little bit of theater, but it's perfectly functional, and it's so good that I'm happy to still live inside the Matrix. This is the thing. It's quicker than 90% of the cars on the road. It's more capable than 95% of the drivers on the road, and it's 100% better than my takes on EVs from 3 years ago. Growth hurts, being wrong hurts, and this car is very, very right. Hyundai set a benchmark here, and they've actually proved that they can build an EV that enthusiasts like you and me actually want to drive. Thanks for hanging out with me today and having a look at this 2026 Hyundai IONIQ 6N here at Korea International Circuit, and hope you enjoyed this episode, because I certainly did, and it's been incredibly eye-opening, and I cannot wait until I get more seat time with this IONIQ 6N. Thanks again for watching. See you again next time.
Let me know what you think. Can EVs be proper driver's cars, or is engagement exclusively limited to an internal combustion engine vehicle? Your definition of a driver's car determines which trade-off works. Tell me yours in the comments below.
I gotta say, it's the weirdest thing to hear my voice echo in this place. Ugh. I will never forget this experience. Holy smokes.